Hello, my name is Ryan Greeniger, and I'm going to be giving you some information and background on the Pleistocene Epoch. So, when did this epoch occur in our Earth's history? This epoch occurred in the Cenozoic era, which is also categorized under the Phanerozoic eon. The Pleistocene Epoch is categorized under Quaternary. And what does quaternary mean? This means that the Pleistocene Epoch lasted from anywhere about 2.588 million years ago to our present day. Although it didn't last this long exactly, it lasted from 2.588 million years ago to 11,700 years ago. So just about the whole time, but not exactly. So what happened during this time and why was it important? This was a time of a lot of change. The Earth was cooling, and it was a major ice age. Much of the world was covered by glaciers during this time. So what effect does that have on the land and living species during the Pleistocene Epoch? This means that living things are restricted to where they can live, reproduce, and eat, and also travel. They can't go anywhere where huge glaciers are because there's no food, there's no where to live, pretty much. And this really restricted their living conditions and where they could survive. What restrictions did this have, or what changes did this have on the Earth's features? Is the cooling and the covering of glaciers really changed the Earth's features. It really pushed a lot of Earth in different directions and made old land masses. It also destroyed a lot of old land masses and made new ones while it was moving. And after this, it really after this period of the Ice Age, there was a period of warming. And so what did this effect have on our Earth and the living species in it? Well, when it was cold, species couldn't move, eat certain things because they were covered, and things couldn't really live in certain areas due to the extreme cold and the enormous glaciers covering everything. So what happened when the Earth heated up? Glaciers receded, temperature rose, and this created a lot of new opportunities for living things on the Earth. This also changed how the Earth was shaped. What I mean by that is when the Earth warmed, the glaciers receded and exposed how it created new structures and how it destroyed old ones. We can still see this today through erosion, through canyons such as the Grand Canyon, which is still being formed to this day. But it started millions of years ago in the Pleistocene Epoch. So what happened with the living things during this time? They had much more opportunities, like I said, to expand and reproduce and grow their species. Species such as flowering plants, insects, mollusks, birds, mammals, and other species prospered. Why do they prosper? Because of the heating of the temperature and the expansion of new territory to pursue. And that just really gave way for many new species to become available and live. Although when the Earth was cold and there was glaciers on land masses, this didn't cause extinction. Living species were forced to adapt or die. So most of them adapted and were able to weather out the extreme climate. What types of species lived during this time? Our own ancestors lived during this time, the Homo sapiens. They really prospered when the Earth was warming up and the Ice Age started to come an end. By the end of this epoch, most of the Homo sapiens had spread to throughout the world. They spread to like every landmass on the world. How is this possible? Well, when there was an ice age, it covered mostly planet, but when it was receding, species such as ourselves, Homo sapiens, were able to move to new lands. And when they did this, lands ended up breaking off from each other, and they separate each other from. And that is how they were able to spread to different parts of the world. So how did Homo sapiens and large animals exist with each other? Large animals also went extinct when the Homo sapiens were living side by side with them. There is a direct correlation with this. The reason is because Homo sapiens needed something to eat besides just plants, so they hunted large game, and they basically wiped out species of animals because of hunting. Now this is just a theory, this isn't set in stone, but it does make sense since primitive human beings did use spears to hunt animals, and we can see this still with Native Americans, how they would hunt bison and buffalo, and they would hunt them all the time for food and for tools and for clothing. There were also diseases that could have made different animals become extinct. These are both theories on how animals became extinct and why they are no longer living on this earth. We believe there's a combination of these factors that made animals go extinct. So we've already talked about the climate, but how do we know that the climate was like this? How do we know that the Ice Age weathered down mountains and created canyons and had these scarring effects that we see today? Well, we know it's because we study fossils and sediments in the ground that tell us this. We can understand dramatic climate change and how it had an effect on the day-to-day life millions of years ago. And this is really important because it tells us how we can prepare in the future for something like this if it were to happen again. We can understand that different land masses will move due to the extreme weathering of glaciers coming and going on the Earth's surface. And we can tell how that will affect the climate and how the climate will affect the different ice ages. We can also see how animals weather these extreme climates and how they were able to adapt and change. This is all due through study of fossils and through the study of sediments in the ground. And again, we find that different species are still alive today, even though They weathered the climate millions of years ago. So we can use that information to help our species in the future.